Yeah, g'day. Might wonder what I'm doing underneath the van. Well, we're about to head off in a couple of days on another trip across to South Australia. But yeah, just doing a pre-trip inspection. Get underneath, have a quick look around, make sure everything's in order. And I might point out, we don't have all these big disasters that people post about on their trips. And I reckon a lot of that's due to pre-trip preparations. As you can see, the underside of our van's pretty dirty but reasonably well protected. We don't have any breakages and things like that. We take it relatively easy. We run low tyre pressures off-road, and most things are in reasonable nick. So just a quick look over. New diesel heater we just put in. Getting old and we need the warmth. Too cold, especially down south. Anyway, under here, really just a quick inspection around, checking all your plumbing and your electrical, make sure there's nothing loose, nothing nothing moving like this, and all these things are fixed properly. These cable ties break, stones bounce off them and snap them and things like that. You need to check them once in a while. Grease nipples on the suspension. Now they don't look like they've been done, but I did them a couple of months ago when we arrived home from far north Queensland, and you can check that video out on our YouTube channel. But pretty much been around, had a quick look, checked the shocks, checked the springs, make sure there's no breakages. But yeah, greasing, very important. Do that a couple of times a year, we do anyway. Whew. Glad to be out from under there. Now, usual sort of things, I've got a checklist that I go through every time before we leave on a trip. And I go through every one of those items and make sure they're in some sort of good order at least. Or if they need repair or adjustment or whatever, we get onto that before we leave home. And I can honestly say that most of our trips are pretty much problem free. We don't have tyres shredding, we don't have bearings collapsing, we don't have failing brakes, we don't have failing suspension. And if you watch our videos, you'll realise we do spend a fair bit of time on the gravel. So yeah, I don't know, just take it easy and do your pre-trip inspection. Every time we get home, we do the bearings. I'll pull them out, I'll have a look at them. If they look okay, we'll repack them, wash them out, repack them, put a new seal in, and we're ready to go again. Adjust them up and they're fine. And most of the time they're pretty good because we maintain them every trip before we go away. Brakes, adjustments. Only recently I put complete new backing plates on. These replace the ones that have been on for 8 years and served us really well. But rather than mucking around with magnets and brake pads and that, just replace the whole backing plate. It's economically, it's much better way to go. Next thing, and this is really important, check your nuts. Have a look at your wheel nuts. Get a torque wrench onto them. Take them up to spec and check them regularly during your trip. I reckon I check mine every second day. Might look like a bit of a knob running around the campgrounds with a torque wrench, click, 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 but we haven't had a wheel fall off. We haven't had a stud snap off, and we have never lost a wheel or any of those things, and we do go a little bit off-road. So yeah, there's a good tip. Check your nuts. We always fill our tanks before we head off too. We really don't ever know where we're going most of the time, and I do like to carry some water. We've got about 170 litres on board, plus we've got 45 in the car, and that sees us easily through a week if we need to. But yeah, pretty much that's one of the other preps, is filling the tanks and checking the tyre pressures. That was another one I forgot to mention earlier. Yeah, we check all that before we leave home. Grease the hitch. Don't forget to do that. Check your breakaway. Pull the pin on it. Go and check that the brake lights are on, and with the wheels jacked up, which I've already done, so I won't do it now, but you can see my brake lights are on there. With the wheels jacked up, check that they're locking up, which they should be doing. Oh, by the way, don't forget to put the pin back in. You don't want to flatten that battery. Inside, I might turn some lights on, I think. You finally get to see the inside of our really basic, keep it simple, stupid type caravan, but this is how we travel. Inside, we just run all the appliances. We don't, if we're on powered sites, we do use air conditioner up north. We make sure that's running, and that's always been really reliable. This one, this Truma Eventer, amazing. I think a lot of people had some issues with them, but we haven't. We checked that the gas hot water is operating properly, and the fridge operating well on gas too, which it usually does. Something we did is we installed these fans inside on the fins, and that's made a huge difference as we spend a lot of time up in the tropics, and the fridge performs exceptionally well. Speaking of gas appliances, I'll just sit down because the roof's not popped. We run the stove too, make sure all that's running well in the oven. If everything's working well before we leave home, that's a good start. Make sure your gas bottles are full, or at least one of them. We carry two, so we run one out and then we know we need to fill that and switch over to the second one. That works really well for us. Other than the usual packing, you know, clothes and the fridge and that, everything's been done. I usually get onto the things pretty much as soon as we arrive home, and I try to make sure everything's in tip-top condition before we leave home. There's our new roof vent. I don't know if you recall from a previous video, we're up in Surat in Queensland, and a mini tornado come through. I had the hatch open and the wind grabbed hold of it and ripped it straight off the roof. So yeah, that was an insurance job, but all good now, all fixed and nice and shiny compared to the rest of the van. We go through the list and we check out, you know, hoses and I don't know, sea gear mat, all the gear, our rafter poles for our awning, all those sort of things. But it's pretty much a standard list that we go through every time. It works really well. Just had to turn my radio off. Didn't want to get a copyright strike. I bought these in Bunnings the other day. Not that we're endorsed by Bunnings or sponsored by them or anything like that or whatever, but yeah, they're pretty cheap. And originally we were using just coach screws and a drill to put pegs into the ground, but I bought this. So I think it was about 20 bucks. Might point out we actually don't use any form of stone protection on the van. We don't have a stone guard. We don't have a mesh that runs between the car and the van or any. I really can't be bothered with any of that stuff. We don't have a big problem. What we do though is we cover the back window of the D-Max with some core fluid. That's cheap, we pick it up at a hardware store, and I just put a new one on every trip and it lasts the whole trip. Sometimes we're away for 6 or 7 months, and that works perfectly. Once we've done a real good look over the whole van, we move on to the car and we have a quick look around now. Yeah, we get the car serviced by the local Isuzu dealer. They look after that and they're very good at it, so I'll leave that to them. But as far as everything else in the car, like we check the hitch over, make sure that's good, check all the bolts for tightness, crawl under, check out the hitches, check all my electricals, battery and ESC connections. You might notice we don't use Anderson plugs. These I don't know, KT or something. I prefer these. They're rated at 50 amps each, and they seal off. They don't get any mud and gunk in the back, and I find they work way better than the Anderson plugs, but you may disagree. But I had Anderson plugs fall apart on me, so yeah, I've had these for a while and they work brilliantly. One other thing we do for sort of stain protection, the little bit we do is we extend the mud flaps a bit, which works well, especially with the little lift on the car. So it means that we're not throwing the rocks up at the van in the first place, which is getting onto the problem before it happens. Okay, to the back of the car. Just usual things. That's our kitchen tub. Underneath here we have a recovery bag with all our recovery gear in it, and another crate back there with spares and things like that in it. We opted not to have drawers. I couldn't see the point of putting 100 kilograms of drawers in, or 80 kilograms of drawers, to carry 50 kilograms worth of stuff. So we just use these plastic boxes. My handy little pole there to bring them out from the front. And that's just got a few spares and bits and pieces in there, but there's stuff to get us out of trouble. Probably usually duct tape, fencing wire, cable ties, that sort of thing. And right up the end there is a trolley jack. And we always carry a trolley jack, but I find that the standard jack's just a bit bloody useless, and to be honest, this is where it lives, on the bench in my shed. So we don't take that jack away. I do take a, I can't remember now, I think it's a 4-ton bottle jack in its place, and we carry that trolley jack as well. Back to the back of the car there. On this side, and just beside some dirty rags you always need, we've got a compressor. It works very well. It's a Bush Ranger, and it's been faultless. Works great. This hose runs out all the way back to the caravan. We can do the caravan and the car, and that works really well. These are Max Tracks. They're actually new. We totally destroyed the ones we had. They weren't actually Max Tracks, they were another brand. Totally destroyed them down at Robe a couple of years ago, and luckily enough we haven't had to use the Max Tracks for a while, but yeah, that's what we use for recovery. Just our camping chairs, table, Angel fridge, nearly 24 years old, that one, still plodding along. And a few things here, pressure packs, CRC, silicone spray, gas gas torches, tie downs, torch, torque wrench, talking about that before, and fold out solar panel, which we use in addition to the one I have on the roof. Thus, which runs our fridge and charges our battery and runs our travel buddy. We'll move around to the side a bit here. This is really basic. Mostly all this gear here is for charging drone batteries, GoPro batteries, other accessories if you need them. There's USB ports there, 12-volt socket, circuit breaker for our 600-watt inverter. We only need a 600. We only charge things like Roby batteries and drone batteries with the inverter. Fuse panel, very important. Don't wire anything without a fuse in it. And indication of what's going on. As you can see, the panel's got this battery at 100% at the moment, so that's good. Travel buddy oven. Now that's great for lunches. We do pies, pasties, pasticcis, I don't know, pizza pieces, and all sorts of things in there. We can even cook a roast in there, which we have done on a couple of occasions, and that works really well. Under here, spares, fuel filters, oil filters, both fuel filters, catch can filter, air filter, spare oil, belts, hoses, all that sort of gear. So yeah, you pretty much need to be self-sufficient a lot of the time, and that's one way of making sure you've got the bits. While we're on the subject, tools. A decent set of tools: sockets, open and ring spanners, screwdrivers, pliers, long nose, multi-grips, files, hacksaws. I don't know, I take a fair bit. My toolkit probably weighs about 15 to 18 kilos, but it's certainly a blessing when you've got it. We're very weight wise, and there are things that come into mind all the time, the weight. But to be without those tools, having said that, we've hardly ever really needed the whole kit. But you've always got what you need when you need it, as far as the tool's concerned. The one thing up the front there, well, it's the back of the storage area, but it's the front of the tub. Pool noodles. Now, we don't use them for anything but swimming, but I don't know, people use them for all sorts of things. When we're travelling, we remove the back seat out of the D-Max. There's only the two of us, and we use these tubs strapped in. They can't move, and all the stuff's stored in tubs. Now our secret's out. But this is Maxi, and we've had a few cars over the years. We've had Patrols, we had an old NK Pajero way back in the day. We've had the NT Pajero for about 8 years before we bought the Patrol, before we bought the D-Max. And the D-Max, I've got to say the D-Max is probably the best of the lot so far. I really do like it. Well, this is the cockpit. This is where all the action happens from. It's pretty basic. We don't have a lot of flash stuff in our car. But what we do have is a tyre monitor system, which works very well. That's an extension speaker behind it for the two-way. We only use an Oricom. We find it works fine. It does the job, and it's good for communication back and forward to the handheld when we're off-road or when we're back in the van and things like that. And communications with road gangs and truckies when we're on the road. And we use it all the time. And also, here's the handheld we use, just a little 2-watt GME, works brilliantly, and it's fantastic when we're, I don't know, doing recoveries or, like I said, backing the van in, things like that. Michelle gets on that, and I get on the one in the car, and we usually have an argument over it. No, that's not right. It does certainly help out. One other thing we carry, satellite phone. This is a Thuraya, and we bought this outright. I think it was just a bit under $1,000 at the time, and it's on a plan that costs us about $16.50 a month, and it allows family and friends or anybody to ring us for free on a mobile while within the mobile's cap. So yeah, it's hasn't let us down yet. Yeah, I find that's it's reassuring to know that you can speak straight with someone if you do manage to get into some trouble. Plus, we get a chance to ring back to the family at home and keep in touch with them when we're on the road. Almost necessary to have some form of communication, because these mobile phones are a bit useless. Most of the places we go, the mobiles don't work. So yeah. Michelle always travels with a hairbrush, sunscreen, and I don't know, all that sort of stuff, mozzie repellents, and a pen. She always writes notes. She's a note person. And other than that, we've got a real simple setup. We have got a Samsung tablet that goes in here. It locks into this position here, and it has a full off-road mapping system on it. We use Exploros EO Topo and Exploros Traveller, and we love it. We probably don't use it to its full potential, but it has all the tracks on it, everything, and it's updated. The recent mapping is only 2023, and it's brilliant. I love it. But yeah, that's just, it's not an endorsement. Well, it is a bit of an endorsement, but no, we're no sponsorship or anything like that. We paid for our maps, we paid for our tablet and all that gear. But I find that that setup worked out cheaper and better than a lot of the pre-made GPS off-road mapping systems that are available. And we've been using a few over the years, so pretty happy with it. Pretty standard stuff out the front. Bull bar, UHF antenna, light vision driving lights. They weren't cheap, but they don't fail, they don't move, and they don't fall off. We have had cheap ones in the past, and they just not worth the effort. Winch, which we have used on a couple of occasions, but not very often. We're not really that adventurous a lot of the time. Most of the time we spend our days off-road pulling other people out of trouble. Quality recovery points. Other than that, pretty stock old D-Max. I'm very happy with it. Oh, I did forget to mention one thing in the back of the tub. I don't know if you can make it out back there, but there's a water tank underneath those pool noodles, which we, if I can get this off, we run through here, and basically that holds 45 litres of water for when we don't have the van with us. It also serves to run off to town sometimes and fill up, so we can bring it back to transfer it into our tanks, which basically would give us an unlimited stay. That's about the only shortfall is water. We can get about a week, maybe 5 days, and the dunny cassette, we've got to find a dump point for that occasionally too. But no, water in the car is a nice idea. Well, that pretty much sums it up. The checklist is probably a bit more extensive than I've gone into detail here, but yeah, we just make sure these things are sorted before we leave home, and we have a problem-free trip nearly every time. I can't think of a time that we've ever been stranded or had something go seriously wrong where we couldn't move on. It's yeah, it's been a really good time. If you like what we do, we would love it if you would go across to our YouTube channel and subscribe and like, and ring that notification bell so that you know when we're releasing new stuff. Also follow us on Facebook. We post on there regularly, and we don't have a lot of followers. We're not a huge page, and we like it that way. We have no endorsements and no sponsors, and we like it that way. So if you do enjoy our stuff, please support us, and we really appreciate it. Anyway, we're nearly ready to go. Another couple of days of just packing clothes and food, and we're out of here, heading across to South Australia, to the Yorke Peninsula and the Eyre Peninsula. So get onto the YouTube channel and follow us on that one, and we'll be posting stuff on Facebook daily, probably, during that trip over the next 8 to 10 weeks, right up to Christmas, and then we'll be back home again. Anyway, thanks for listening, and we'll see you around on the road somewhere.